Hello and welcome to this lecture, and this lecture is a solution to the coding challenge part 1. So let's directly jump into the coding challenge and let's solve this problems here one by one. So the very first thing which you need to do is that open up MySQL. So I'm going to type in MySQL command line, and when you open up the command line, first we need to enter the password as usual. Okay, so now once we have entered the password, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to create a new database which is named as student.db. So for the very first problem, it is actually quite simple. You need to type in a simple query which is create database student.db, give a semicolon and hit enter. And actually I misspelled database. I always do this. Okay, so now once I revise my mistake and when I hit enter, as you could see, we successfully created the database. In order to check if that database is actually created, I type show databases, and when I hit enter, as you could see, we have the student DB right over here. So the very first problem in our challenge is solved. Now the next task is to basically create a table which is named as student with fields as ID, first name, last name, contact and marks. So for this thing, what we do is that we go right here, and the very first thing, even before writing in the query for creating a student table, the first thing which we need to do is that we need to use the newly created database. So we type use student db, and when I hit enter, as you could see, we got the outcome as database changed. That means now we will be creating the table inside the student db database. Now let's go ahead and create a table called as student. So I'm going to type in create table student, and after this we specify the fields inside the student table. So the first field is going to be ID, so I'm going to type in ID, then this is going to be of the type int, then give a comma, then the first name is going to be varchar, so I type in first name, and this is going to be varchar. Let's give it a size of, let's say 20, give a comma, do the same thing for the last name. So let's type in last name, type in varchar, this is also going to be, let's say 20, and for the contact we use varchar as well. So we type in contact varchar 30, or let's say 10, or let's say 20, and the final one is the marks. So let's say we take integer for marks, so I'm going to type in marks and integer and end the statement with a semicolon. So when I hit enter, as you could see, it tells us like query okay, 0 rows affected. That means we have successfully created the table with the following fields, that is ID, first name, last name, contact and marks. Now let's go ahead and check if this table is actually created in the student.db database. So we type show tables, and as you could see, when we type in the query show tables, we actually got the newly created table which is called as students. That means we have successfully created the table with the following fields right over here. That means the second part of this challenge is actually done. Now let's move on to the third problem statement. So the third problem statement says that insert 5 rows of data into the student table. So in order to insert anything into the table, we use the insert into statement. So we type in insert into student, and after this we type values, and after values we actually specify the value separated by commas. So the very first value is ID, so the ID for this first student is, let's say 1, so we type 1, give a comma, then we specify the first name, let's say his first name is Adam, then give a comma, and actually you could give any name, whatever you want. It is not actually necessary that you give only these names. So I type in 1 comma Adam, and make sure that whenever you are typing in the character values, you do include them in single quotes. Okay, so Adam, let's say his surname is Smith, so the last name is Smith. Then let's say the contact is some random number like 9999 and something like that. Then again give a comma, and then for the marks, let's say the marks obtained by him are, let's say, 89 out of 100. So when we complete the statement, simply give a semicolon and hit enter. So when you hit enter, these values are actually inserted into the table which is called as student. Now in order to check if these values are actually inserted, we type in select star from students, or simply student, and when we hit enter, as you could see, the values for Adam are inserted. Now what you need to do is that you need to continue doing this for 5 rows of data. So what you need to do is that you need to execute this query again. So if you push the upper arrow key on your keyboard, you will get the query which was used previously. So what you could do here is that you could simply replace this 1 by 2, this Adam by, let's say, Chris, let's say this is Jones, let's say he has some random contact number like this, let's say marks obtained by him are 99, and when you hit enter, again a row is going to get inserted. So make sure that you do this for like 5 times, at least 5 times, so that your table is going to be populated, because we will be using the same table to complete our next coding challenges. So once you are done with this, the next thing which you need to do is that you need to display out the contents of student table. So we have already written a statement which is called as select star from student to basically get the contents of the table. So if you type this thing again and hit enter, as you could see, you will get the data which you have inserted into the table. So once you are done with this, the next task is to use where clause to check for any single condition on the student table. Now in this case, what you need to do is that you need to use a where clause to check for any condition. So let's assume that in this case you want to check a condition for, let's say, marks. So let's say you want to find out who is a student who has got like 99 marks in the test. So for that purpose, what you could do is that you could type in select star from student, then you could type in where. So you could type in where marks equals 99, and after that give a semicolon and hit enter. So as you could see, we got the result as a row which contains the data for Chris. So Chris Jones is a student who has scored 99 marks in the test. So that's how you basically use the where clause to identify any condition. And in order to give it more practice, what you could do is that you could try different variations of the same problems which are expressed in this challenge. So let's say for the 5th problem right here, what you could do is that you could check any other condition like select star from student where, let's say, marks are greater than 100 or less than 100 or less than any value. So you could do that just so as to get used to the syntax of the queries right here. So that's it for this coding challenge, and I hope you enjoyed this challenge and followed through. So if you have any issues related to this problem, you could directly go ahead and ask me, and I will be there to answer you. So thank you very much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Thank you.